Kids might be heading out to college. How do you reduce that stress? With us today, Gail Nelson from Journey Counseling. I know there's a book out, Gail, that you talk about that really kind of helps set the table for kids as they move through college. What is that?
Yeah, when I like Meg Jay wrote a book as a PhD paper about what this transition is like for, featuring really for the kids. And I like just how she puts things, pick your family. That's a major task of your 20s. Who are you gonna align yourself with? Who do you date? Who do you line up with? Who are your roommates? All those things make your, either make your life work or make your life not work. Do the math. You gotta figure out the economic reality of all this. Maybe instead of going to college, maybe we need to do a vocational training. Maybe you need to be a welder. Maybe you need to be a phlebotomist. Maybe you need to do that if you want to fund yourself through college.
Oh, sure.
But I think what her major point was, she saw people at age 30 often kind of looking, looking back, thinking, ooh, I wish I would have. And so she's really trying to get people to think ahead, to try to figure out, how do I build a life that's really going to work for my future, and put all those pieces together, because there's a lot at stake. You really do need to make some really smart choices.
What's the opportunity to experiment? I mean, let's be honest, after 20 is also a great chance to say, hey, Mom, I'm going to go off to college and kind of see, hey, am I into economy? Am I into, pre-med? I mean, where's that room for sort of experimenting and finding yourself?
Because a lot of times you don't know what you want to do with your life, and there's a lot of pressure to figure it out so that you don't spend so many years wasting money.
Yeah. Overwhelming, isn't it? There's so many choices. But I think maybe one of the things is really follow the things that you're inclined to do and see what you love to do. If there are things that come easy to you, what if you follow those things? But again, there's dreams, there's fantasies about what you think is on the other side of that, and being prepared for all that is a new reality.
Okay, so really having some really good conversations with your kids before they leave, and is that even go as far as budgeting and figuring out, everything? Well,
the reality of it, and I know when the FAFSA comes back and they list out what the parent's responsibility is, it looks like the federal loans, and especially if you're doing the college piece, but then there's this line on there that talks about parent plus loans, and they're just making this wild assumption that as a parent you're going to contribute all of this. And I know for my husband and I, when we looked at that, I was like, wow, really? So it really is an economic conversation. How much of that future can you enable for your child? So having those discussions is important. And I think parents sometimes try to do more than they really can do. So they've got to have a lot of really frank, open discussions about what they really can and can't do, and what choices might be limited or open to the child at that time.
Any suggestions for parents? Because you've got to give them obviously a leash. You know they're going to make mistakes in college. There's going to be that phone call like, yeah, Mom, I didn't mean to, but I did this last night.
More in depth than I thought I was. Yeah, I need some money.
Yeah, well, I think being clear that you're not their ATM machine would be a good, and maybe a budget. Here's what we can help with. Or if there is a DUI, and if you're in jail, you're going to sit there, or whatever you think that rule is, so that they do learn good lessons, because there's a lot of big troubles kids can get into.
Oh yeah.
So they've got to be aware if they're making those choices, they might have those consequences. So.
Very true. Any final words that you want to add before we?
Well, I just think that the opportunity for kids is overwhelming, so that anxiety is going to come. But just, they're smart, you'll figure it out, just have lots of trust in them, and don't do too much for them. They get to suffer a little bit. That's okay. That's part of adulthood. You need to learn how to suffer and cope through it. So good resources, though. There's lots of help out there. Might not be you as a parent. It might be, another adult in their family. It might be somebody else that they might listen to even more readily than they might as a parent. They've heard it all before from the parents. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Let them live their life. That's key. You said that a little while ago.
Well, parents sometimes that call and they want me to do that as a counselor, and sometimes we have really good discussions because they're like, oh, well, that's kind of the same thing I've heard before, but it sounds a little different when you say it. So,
one of the other things too is parents go through anxiety. You used to have your son or daughter around, and all of a sudden they're not. And you think, oh, should I check in on them? And maybe we'll talk about that next time. Gail Nelson, Journey Counseling, thanks for being here. Stay with us. Much more coming up right here on North Dakota Today.